Hello, good morning. Today we're going to look at our poetry unit lesson 2, Ask Aiden and Wishes. So our learning goals today are I can find textual evidence to find the implicit and explicit meanings of Harriet Mullen's Ask Aiden and Norman Alt's Wishes. I can define the terms repetition and alliteration. I can create original work using alliteration. I can write questions and assemble them into an original poem. So our vocabulary for today first is aardvark. That is a small mammal native to Africa. Crave, to want or wish for. Lack, to be without. Newt, an amphibian found in many parts of the world. Steed, a horse, usually ridden by an important person or warrior. Alliteration, the repetition of sounds at the beginning of several words in order or near one another. Dedication, which is a note in or after the title that shows the author wrote the poem for a special person. Repetition, saying the same letters, sounds, or words over and over again. And slant rhyme, where words that share only the final consonant sound. So night, kite, flight, sight, bite, height, might, light, fight, tight, fright, sight. Okay? Today the poems that we're going to read were written by Harriet Mullen and the other by Norman Alt. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about each one first. Harriet Mullen was born on July 1st, 1953 in Florence, Alabama. She was raised in Texas and became fascinated by language and poetry at a young age. Mullen recalls, "At school and at church, we were always called on to memorize and recite poems. A whole lot of Langston Hughes and James Weldon Johnson and Paul Laurence Dunbar. These poets influenced Mullen, whose poetry won an award and publication in the local newspaper when she was in high school. Mullen's book, Tree Tall Woman, considers the lives of Southern Black women. Her other collections include Muse and Drudge and Sleeping with the Dictionary. Mullen uses humor and wordplay to discuss complicated topics. Writing connects her with people from various races and ethnicities worldwide. The more people you can talk to and understand, the richer your life and experience can be. Mullen teaches African American literature and creative writing at the University of California, Los Angeles." Norman Alt was born on December 17, 1880 in Birmingham, England. One of 8 children, Alt attended King Edward V Grammar School in Essex, England. While at school, Alt was recognized for his natural creative talents and did remarkably well in both his art and architecture courses. His artistic reputation continued to grow, and he received recognition by The Artist magazine as particularly talented artist. With his wife, Lena, Alt created beautiful and imaginative children's books such as the Rhyme Book and the Podgy Book of Tales. In 1920, Alt published Dreamland Shores, a children's book that paired poems with colorful and whimsical paintings of magnificent adventures. In addition to being a scholar of 17th century British poetry, Alt was recognized by Oxford University for his talent as a writer. He died on February 6, 1950. So let's take a look at Ask Aiden by Harriet Mullen, 4 AD. So that means it was dedicated to a person named AD. So look at the poem in your poet's journal, and we're looking at page 14 and 15. And I want you to identify what the words on the first line have in common. So let's look at our poem. Are aardvarks anxious? Do dragons dream? Ever seen an eager elephant? Newts are never nervous, are they? So what do those all have in common? That first line, are aardvarks anxious? Hopefully you notice that they all start with this letter A. Also, what is the definition of infer? Hopefully you remember. If you don't, go back and check. So to infer means basically you're taking an educated guess. Okay, we learned that in the last lesson. So to infer something, you're using the information you have to make an educated guess. So we're going to take this poem and we're going to look at 2.1. It's page 16 and 17 in your book. Okay. The speaker of the poem has chosen a subject in each line. What do all of the subjects have in common? So let's look at our poem again. Are aardvarks anxious? What's the subject of that line? Do dragons dream? What's that subject? Who or what is that about? Ever seen an eager elephant? What is the subject of that one? And then last, newts are never nervous, are they? So what do those subjects have in common? Go ahead and write that for number 1. And number 2 doesn't really have a right or wrong answer as long as you give me a complete sentence. Why might this person be asking all these questions? So somebody's asking all these questions here. Why would they do that? So write a complete sentence there. And number 3, this is where it gets kind of fun. Look at the letters On 15, first I want you to write which letter is being repeated, which sound is being repeated. So for our aardvarks anxious, you should have A. For do dragons dream, those are all D, so put a D next to that one. For ever seen an eager elephant. So seen and un have different letters, but ever, eager, elephant are all E's, so I'll put an E there. Newts are never nervous, are they? So even though some of the words are different ones, we see a bunch of N's. Newts never nervous, so I'm going to put an N there. So A, D, E, N. Does that look familiar? Hopefully you notice that it spells Aiden here, which is our title, Ask Aiden. Okay, so we're going to do kind of the same thing on this chart for number 3. First, you cannot use the letters in Aiden. So no A, no D, no E, no N. Those are off limits. So where it says letter 1, letter 2, letter 3, letter 4, letter 5, just pick a letter, any letter you want. I will tell you that if you pick letters like Q or Z or X, it's going to make it a little difficult for you. Okay, so go ahead and pick some letters. After you've picked a letter for all 5 of these, you're going to pick an animal that starts with that letter. So you weren't supposed to pick D, but if you picked, for an example, if I picked D, I could put a deer as the animal. Okay. Then you're going to pick a verb or an action word that starts with that same sound. Okay. So for deer, my action could be dart. That means like they moved really fast. Okay. So my action could be dart. And then a feeling that starts with the same sound. So duh, another for duh. And I'm going to put they feel dazed. Okay. Then letter 2, you're going to do the same thing for the next letter you have. These should all be different letters. And they should be different from Aiden. Okay, none of those letters. So each one's a different letter. And then the whole row, your animal, your verb or action word, and your feeling all are going to start with that same sound. Okay. So I say sound, not letter, because some letters can make different sounds depending how they're used, right? So if you use a C, for example, sometimes words that start with a C can make a ch sound, okay? So some of them make a k sound, some make more of a s sound. So it depends on the sound. Okay, so you can use words that start with different letters as long as they start with the same sound. So go ahead and fill those out. So you should have all 5 filled out all the way across. Then when you're done, we're going to look at number 4. Poets use repetition for different reasons. Sometimes they want to stress an important thought or point. Sometimes they want to repeat certain letters or sounds. As in rhyming words, to make their poem sound pleasing. So you might use repetition to make it sound good, or something's really important that you really want your reader to understand. Okay? So number 4 says, once you have completed the previous chart, that's number 3, use the words on each line to form a question. Try to make each one a question that you find interesting. You may revise the chart if you wish. Write your questions on the lines below. Now, because I chose the words deer, dart, and dazed, I could write a question like, do dazed deer dart? And that would work for this poem. If you're writing it and you're like, oh my gosh, there is no way I can come up with a question for these words, you can go back and revise your chart and change things. That's not a problem. Remember, we're doing this for practice, so it does not need to be perfect. It should be a little bit difficult, and there should be some mistakes and corrections, because that shows that we're learning and growing. We want to remember that stretch zone. We want to stretch what we can do. So I know it'll be a little bit difficult. Stick with it, and it's going to come out really cool. So I want you to think, what similarities do these lines have to one another? Okay, hopefully you can remember that each line was about an animal and mostly use words that start with the same letter. Next, we're going to look at repetition, and this one's kind of fun, and I bet some of you can relate to it. So repetition is saying the same letters, sounds, or words over and over again. So it's repetitive, it repeats, okay? My nose, a leaky faucet, has a drip, drip, drip. I wipe it so it won't land on my lip, lip, lip. I think that I'm allergic to all weeds, 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 and long-haired cats and vegetables with seeds, seeds, seeds. So you can see there's repetition with drip, lip, weeds, and seeds in that one. Then alliteration. I really like alliteration. We're going to do some fun stuff with it. It's the repetition of sounds at the beginning of several words in order or near one another. So the examples I have here are Natalie nibbled noodles. So it has n. Sam sipped a strawberry Slurpee. So it's just s. Pete the penguin likes pizza and pickles. So it's a bunch of p. Monkeys make major messes. Carla went camping. K. Okay, so we're going to work with some of these. So on 2.1 again, I just want you to go back and think for a minute. So this poem that we read, Ask Aiden, where each line spelt or had a repetition letter, and those letters spelt the name Aiden. So I want you to challenge yourself, and I want you to try to make one with a name of somebody you know. Do not use your name right now. We're actually going to do that later on in the unit, a later lesson. Sorry, lesson 9. We'll do that. But I want you to think of a friend or a family member, or it could even be like mom or dad. And if you make it really good, we could even make it look really nice, and you could give it as a Christmas gift to somebody. Or they're great for like Father's Day, Mother's Day, any of that kind of stuff. So these types of poems that do that are called acrostic poems. And so it can be a long name, it can be a short name. Obviously, short ones are easier. But you can go ahead and do that. So it would be the same thing as like number 3, except for you don't have to worry about animal, verbs, action, words, feelings. You can pick whatever you want, but just do the letters of a name. So like if I did my last name, right? If I put Platt. So first is P. So I would have to come up with a sentence that all has that repeating p sound. So an acrostic poem does not have to have alliteration in it, but I really like alliteration, so I'm going to use it. So for P, I could say patiently pushing past problems. Then the next letter in Platt is L, so I could say like lightly laughing through life. And then I have A, always aiming at awesome achievements. And T, taking tiny tasks to the top. And then trying tirelessly towards triumph. So, I mean, you could play with it more. Some of those are a little silly, but it would be a lot of fun, and you could do that as some practice. Next, we're going to turn to page 18 and 19 and look at the poem Wishes by Norman Alt. Okay, he was a British man known for his poetry and his artistic abilities as an illustrator. As you listen to me read the poem aloud, I want you to pay attention to differences between this poem and the one by Mullen, Ask Aidan, okay? Wishes by Norman Alt. What do you look for? What do you seek? A silver bird with a golden beak. What do you long for? What do you crave? Golden gems in a silver cave. What do you lack and what do you need? A silver sword and a golden steed. What do you want? Of what do you dream? A golden ship on a silver stream. What do you have and what do you own? A silver robe and a golden crown. What would you be? Oh, what would you be? Only the king of the land and the sea. Okay, so most rhyming words share both a vowel sound and a consonant sound. For example, keep and sleep share a long E sound, keep, sleep, okay, and the p sound at the end. So it's k, e, p, and s, l, e, p. So they both have that e, p at the end. Okay, so it's a vowel and a consonant. Sometimes the words do not have all the same vowel sound, but share only a consonant sound. So an example of that in the poem, Wishes, is own and crown. Okay, they both have that ow sound in them, but they sound differently. So own and crown. The one says the O, long O, and one's a soft on. Okay, so own and crown, but they both end with the consonant n. These words share the n sound at the end, but the O sound is different in each word. Even though it's the same letter, it's a different sound. So when words are not perfect rhymes, but still share a final consonant sound, they're called slant rhymes. So it's like they're almost rhyming, right? So they're slant rhymes. So what does this poem have in common with the first poem, Ask Aidan? Hopefully you were able to notice that they both ask questions, right? They both ask a bunch of questions. And then I want you to see, how many lines does this poem contain? Go ahead and number them. Hopefully you numbered 12. There are 12 lines. And then how many stanzas does this poem contain? That might feel a little bit like a trick. It's okay. It only has one stanza because there are not any stanza breaks in it. So it's all just one stanza. What are the differences that you observed in the Alt poem and the Mullen poem? There's a bunch that exist. So just any differences that you noticed. A common answer is that this poem, Wishes, actually has answers to the questions where Ask Aidan didn't give us the answers. Okay. The Alt poem had questions and answers, not just questions. And then we want to look at the difference in the structure and the way that it asks questions. Okay. So you'll see some images and look for words or lines in the poem that describe what's happening in the picture. So you're going to look at your poem Wishes while I show you some images. So keep your book open to page 19 while I show you these two. So see if you can find this one. What words in the poem describe this image? Hopefully you noticed it shows a silver bird with a golden beak. Okay? Next, what words in the poem describe this image? It is a golden gems in a silver cave. What words in the poem describe this image? It's showing a silver sword and a golden steed. What words are describing this image? Okay, it shows a golden ship on a silver stream. And what about this image? Okay, it shows a silver robe and a golden crown. Now, before I show you the next one, the speaker has been naming things that he wishes for, but they all add up to this one big wish, which concerns what he wants to be, not just what he wants to have. So, as you're looking at the next image, think about what the speaker wants to be. What does he want to be? Yeah, towards the end of the poem, it tells you he wants to be king of the land and the sea. Perfect. So now let's take a look at 2.2. Oh, I'm not sure why it looks that way. Sorry about that. Let me move it back over. I don't know why it did that. Okay. That's better. Okay. So, using the poem and the images, answer the following questions. Number 1, look at the poem's question lines. How many questions are on each line? So if we go all the way back to the poem, you're just going to have to keep it open. How many questions are on each line? So it says, what do you look for? What do you seek? How many questions are in that line? 2, right? What do you look for is a question, and what do you seek is another question. Okay, go all the way back. Okay, number 2. What do the questions on line 1 have in common with each other? So line 1, I'm not going to make you flip back again. Line 1 says, what do you look for? What do you seek? So what do those have in common with each other? What's the same about those two questions? Number 3, using colored pencils, mark the end words for each rhyme sound, assigning one color to each sound, then write the rhyming pairs here. Don't forget to include slant rhymes. Okay, so the first 2 lines, what do you look for, what do you seek, and a silver bird with a golden beak. So we see seek and beak rhyme. So what we want is the rhyme sound. So I'm going to pick a colored pencil, say I pick red, and I'm going to just go ahead and mark, so I can underline or circle or put a box around them, whatever you want to do, just the end sound. So they all have in common seek and beak. So the s and b, those aren't the same. Eek and eek, those are. So I'm going to underline or circle the EEK and EAK on those first 2 lines. Okay. Then I'm going to switch colors, give me a new color. So I used red, so I'm going to switch to blue. And the next ones are, what do you long for? What do you crave? Golden gems in a silver cave. Okay, so we have crave and cave. Those have a lot of the same end sound, so it's ave. Okay, and once you're done with all of the words there, you do one for each line, then you're going to come back and write them down on 3. So if my first one, it was EEK and EAK, I would write that on the first line. Then the next line, I would write the ones for crave and cave, so it'd be AVE and AVE. And then, just keep going until you finish all of them. Number 4, list 3 things from the poem or images that the speaker believes he will get when he is king. So from the poem, what 3 things, that they list more than 3, so just pick 3 things that the speaker thinks that they'll get if they're king. And then number 5, what would a king do with each of these items? So it gives you 3 lines, so on each line, write what you would do with one of the things. So if you picked a silver bird with a golden beak, what would he do with that? What would a king want that for? Okay. All right, once you're done with that, we can move on a little bit. I want you to think about, use your own words to describe what the poem is about. So what do you think that this poem was about wishes? What was it about? Okay. So just think about that. There's not an exact right answer, but it should be somewhere along the lines of, these are all the things that this speaker or this author wants. Okay, these are all the things he thinks he'd get if he was king, and being king is his ultimate wish. He wants to be king and have all these things. Okay, so we're going to move on to 2.3. It is on page 22. Okay, go ahead and open that up. And then in wishes, the speaker dreams of becoming a king. Write down the job you would most like to have. So on number 1, just tell me what job would you like to have, okay? Then we're going to talk about, we already did it kind of in class, and we put them on the board, but I want you to brainstorm what kind of questions would you want to ask somebody about their job, right? If you found out somebody's a doctor, what kind of questions would you ask them? Or you found out he's a plumber, or he's a writer, or he makes video games for a living, or he's a YouTuber. Like, what kind of questions would you want to ask people about their jobs? Just think of as many as you can, okay? And then using our list of questions, pick the ones that interest you the most. Like, which ones would you want to actually ask? So every line that has a Q for question, I want you to pick a different question and write it down, okay? Then, once you're done with that, on number 3, I want you thinking of the job that you wrote down for number 1 that you want to have. I want you to go back to all the A lines here for answer, and you're going to answer the question about the job you want. So if you pick the question, how much money do you make? I want you to answer that about the job you want. So if you put that you wanted to be an artist, okay, how much money do you think you would make from that? Okay. If you put that you want to know how many hours they work each week or each day, then you would write that. You'd answer that question, okay? So go ahead and fill those all out. And then really, that's pretty much it for right now. We're going to use that a little bit later, but we can share that with each other to see if you did it right, see if your answers sound right. I know we don't have jobs right now, so you might not be sure exactly how much they make or what they do, but go ahead and give it a try. Also in class, we went ahead and we did the exit ticket, but we did them in our group. So if you happen to be absent yesterday when we did this, then you'll want to go on and do it so that you get credit. It's on Google Classroom, and it's called Poetry Lessons 1 and 2 Exit Ticket. So go ahead and go on there. It's open book, but it's 10 questions. Go ahead and take that, and then you're done for today.